They thought removing her from the table would make her invisible. They never realized she was the only person in the room who truly understood what mattered. The evening at the Harrington estate was supposed to be a celebration of elegance, wealth, and perfection. Every detail had been carefully arranged for the upcoming wedding of one of Chicago's most influential families. The flowers were flown in from across the country. The menu was designed by award-winning chefs, and every guest had been chosen because of their reputation and status. But among the expensive suits and designer gowns stood someone many people believed did not belong. Her name was Jasmine Carter, a black wedding planner known for creating unforgettable celebrations with patience, creativity, and a level of care that few people noticed until it was missing. She had spent months preparing the event, solving problems before anyone knew they existed, and making sure every small detail reflected the couple's dreams. Yet when Jasmine entered the private dining room where the family and their guests were gathered, she immediately felt the atmosphere change. Some people looked at her work, but others looked only at her appearance. They noticed that she was a curvy woman standing among people who were used to judging success by image and status. They did not see the late nights she spent perfecting plans. They did not see the years she spent building her reputation. They only saw what they wanted to see. Jasmine remained calm. She had experienced moments like this before. She knew that some people made decisions about others before learning their stories. Still, she never expected what happened next. During a discussion about the wedding arrangements, one guest glanced at the table and suggested that there was no room for the planner to sit with the family. The words were polite on the surface, but the message was clear. Jasmine was there to serve, not to belong. The room became uncomfortable. A few people looked away. Others remained silent because they did not want to challenge someone with influence. Jasmine slowly stepped back. She had no desire to create a scene. She simply gathered her notes and prepared to return to her work. She had built her career by understanding people, even when people did not take the time to understand her. But before she could leave, the doors of the room opened. Vincent Harrington walked in. The white mafia boss known for his power, intelligence, and unmatched influence had arrived later than expected. Conversations stopped as everyone turned toward him. Vincent was a man who rarely needed to speak to control a room. His reputation did that for him. But what caught his attention was not the luxury surrounding him. It was the silence. It was the way everyone avoided looking at Jasmine. It was the way she stood there with dignity despite being treated as if she did not belong. Vincent looked at the empty seat where she had been pushed away from the table. Then he looked at the woman holding her carefully prepared wedding plans. For years, Vincent believed he understood people. He believed power revealed someone's true value. But in that moment, he saw something different. The person with the least authority in the room carried the most confidence. And everyone else was about to learn why the woman they refused to see was the person they needed most. After Vincent Harrington entered the room, the atmosphere changed completely. The same people who had been speaking with confidence moments earlier suddenly became careful with every word. Everyone in Chicago knew that Vincent was not a man who ignored details. He built his reputation by observing everything, especially the things others overlooked. And now, the thing that caught his attention was not the expensive decorations, the wealthy guests, or the upcoming wedding. It was Jasmine Carter. She stood quietly near the edge of the room, holding her planning documents close, prepared to continue working even after being made to feel unwelcome. Vincent studied the situation carefully. He had seen people fight for attention, demand recognition, and use every opportunity to gain influence. But Jasmine did something different. She accepted the moment with calmness. She did not argue. She did not try to embarrass anyone. She simply chose dignity over conflict. That surprised him more than anything. Later that evening, Vincent asked one of the staff members about her. "Who is she?" he asked. The staff member looked surprised by the question. "Jasmine Carter. She is the wedding planner for the event." Vincent looked toward the room where Jasmine was reviewing the final arrangements. "Only the planner?" The staff member hesitated. "That is what most people think." Those words stayed with Vincent. Only the planner. As if a title could explain everything about a person. Over the next few days, Vincent began noticing things that others ignored. He saw Jasmine arriving early to review every detail. He saw her calmly solving problems before they became emergencies. He saw how she treated every employee with the same respect she wanted from others. She thanked the people arranging flowers. She listened to the kitchen staff. She remembered small details about the couple's preferences that even family members had forgotten. Jasmine did not perform kindness when someone important was watching. It was simply who she was. Vincent had spent years around people who changed depending on who had power in the room. Jasmine seemed different. One afternoon, Vincent visited the wedding preparation site and found Jasmine checking the final arrangements. She looked surprised to see him. "Mr. Harrington, I was not expecting you here." Vincent looked around the room. Everything was organized with incredible attention. "You designed all of this?" he asked. Jasmine nodded. The couple wanted something that felt personal, not just impressive. Vincent looked at the details around him. He understood business. He understood strategy. But he was beginning to understand something else. Jasmine understood people. "Why did you stay after what happened at the table?" Vincent asked. Jasmine paused for a moment. "Because the wedding was never about me. It is about making sure two people have a day they will remember forever." Vincent remained silent. That answer revealed something he rarely saw. Someone who cared more about doing the right thing than receiving credit for it. For the first time in years, Vincent questioned one of his strongest beliefs. He had always thought powerful people were the ones who controlled the room. But Jasmine Carter had shown him another possibility. Sometimes the strongest person was the one who could remain kind when the world gave them every reason not to be. And as Vincent continued watching her, he began to realize that the woman everyone had pushed away from the table was the person who understood the meaning of the entire celebration better than anyone else. Vincent Harrington had spent most of his life surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Some wanted his approval, some wanted his influence, and others wanted the opportunities that came with being close to power. Over time, he learned to separate genuine intentions from carefully planned appearances. That was why Jasmine Carter continued to surprise him. She was the first person in years who seemed completely unaffected by his reputation. She did not try to impress him. She did not change the way she spoke because he was the most powerful person in the room. She simply treated him like everyone else. And that made Vincent pay even closer attention. As the wedding preparations continued, Vincent started learning more about Jasmine's journey. He discovered that her success had not come easily. Years earlier, she had started with small events and limited resources. She had built her career by focusing on details that others ignored. While some planners focused only on luxury and appearances, Jasmine focused on emotions. She believed a wedding was not remembered because of how expensive it looked. It was remembered because of how people felt during those important moments. One evening, Vincent visited the planning office where Jasmine worked. He expected to find a typical business environment, but instead he found something different. The walls were covered with notes from past clients, thank you letters, and memories from couples whose lives she had helped celebrate. It was clear that her work was not just a profession. It was something she deeply cared about. Jasmine noticed Vincent looking at the letters. "Most people only see the final event," she said. "They do not see the small moments that happen before it." Vincent turned toward her. "And those moments matter?" Jasmine smiled. "Sometimes they matter the most." Her answer stayed with him. Vincent had built an empire by focusing on results. Numbers, deals, and achievements had always been his measurement of success. But Jasmine measured success differently. She measured it through memories created and people cared for. The difference fascinated him. Later that week, Vincent attended a meeting with the Harrington family and several guests involved in the wedding. Some people still questioned Jasmine's role. They believed someone with a more prestigious background should handle such an important event. Vincent listened quietly as they discussed qualifications and appearances. Then he asked a simple question. Who understands this wedding better than the person who created every detail? Nobody answered immediately, because the truth was obvious. Jasmine had spent more time understanding the couple's hopes than anyone else in the room. After the meeting, Vincent found Jasmine reviewing the final schedule. "You knew they doubted you," he said. Jasmine looked up. "Yes." "And you stayed calm?" She nodded. "People are allowed to have opinions. I am responsible for my actions, not their assumptions." Vincent stood silently for a moment. Those words reflected a strength he rarely saw. Many people with power became defensive when questioned. Jasmine became more determined. She did not need to convince everyone. She trusted the quality of her work. For Vincent, that was something new. He had spent years believing confidence came from having control. Jasmine showed him that confidence could also come from knowing your own worth. And slowly, The Mafia boss who had entered the wedding preparations as an observer was becoming someone who no longer saw Jasmine as just a planner. He was beginning to see her as the person who understood something about life that power had never taught him. The more Vincent Harrington learned about Jasmine Carter, the more he realized that the biggest mistake people made was believing they already understood her. They saw a wedding planner. They saw a woman who did not fit the image they expected at a powerful family event. They saw someone they could easily dismiss. But Vincent was beginning to see something completely different. He saw discipline. He saw intelligence. He saw a person who had built her reputation without needing anyone's permission. As the wedding day approached, the pressure around the Harrington estate increased. Every decision mattered. Every detail needed to reflect the importance of the occasion. Several experienced professionals arrived with suggestions, but Vincent noticed something interesting. Many of them focused on what would impress the guests. Jasmine focused on what would make the couple feel understood. During a planning session, one of the consultants suggested replacing several of Jasmine's ideas with more expensive alternatives. The proposals sounded impressive, but Jasmine calmly explained why it would not create the feeling the couple wanted. She did not challenge the consultant's status. She simply explained her reasoning. A beautiful event is not only about what people see, she said. It is about what they remember. Vincent watched the room carefully. He noticed that even people who had doubted her were starting to listen. Jasmine never demanded respect. She earned it through the way she approached every situation. Later that evening, Vincent walked through the nearly finished venue with Jasmine. The space had been transformed into something elegant but personal. Every corner reflected a story. Every detail had meaning. How do you know when something feels right? Vincent asked. Jasmine looked around the room. You listen. Vincent looked surprised. Listen to what? To the people. To what they care about. To what they are not saying out loud. That answer stayed with him. Vincent had built his world around reading contracts, analyzing risks, and predicting outcomes. Jasmine built hers around understanding emotions. They came from completely different worlds, yet he found himself learning from her more than he expected. The next day, Vincent attended a family discussion where some relatives still questioned Jasmine's involvement. They believed someone from a more traditional background would be a better choice. Vincent listened as they talked about reputation and appearances. In the past, he might have agreed. He had spent years believing image was everything. But now he saw the flaw in that thinking. A person's appearance could tell a story, but it could never tell the whole story. You are judging the person who has done the most work because she does not look like the person you expected, Vincent finally said. The room became quiet. Nobody expected him to defend Jasmine. Not because she needed protection, but because the truth deserved to be acknowledged. Later, Jasmine thanked him for speaking up. Vincent shook his head. I did not do it for you. She looked at him curiously. Then why? He paused before answering. Because I finally realized I was looking at the wrong things. For a man who had spent his life trusting appearances and reputation, those words meant more than he wanted to admit. Jasmine had not changed the world around her by demanding attention. She changed it by remaining true to herself. And Vincent was beginning to understand that the person everyone underestimated was becoming the person he respected most. The closer the wedding day came, the more people began to notice something they never expected. Jasmine Carter was no longer just the wedding planner working quietly behind the scenes. She had become the person everyone turned to when decisions needed to be made. The same people who once questioned why she belonged at the table were now asking for her opinion. But Jasmine remained unchanged. She still arrived early, listened carefully, and treated every person around her with the same respect she had always shown. Vincent Harrington noticed that more than anyone. He had spent years surrounded by people who changed their behavior depending on who had influence in the room. But Jasmine never changed. She was kind when nobody important was watching. She was patient when nobody would have blamed her for becoming frustrated. That consistency made Vincent question everything he thought he knew about strength. One evening, Vincent reviewed the final wedding plans with Jasmine. The event was only days away, and every detail had to be perfect. The guest list was finalized, the venue was prepared, and the schedule had been carefully organized. Yet Jasmine noticed one small problem. A part of the ceremony design reflected what looked impressive but did not represent the couple's story. This is beautiful, she said, looking over the plans. But I think it needs more of them. Vincent looked confused. What do you mean? Jasmine explained that the best celebrations were not remembered because they looked expensive. They were remembered because they felt personal. She suggested changes that would make the event more meaningful for the couple and their families. Vincent listened closely. He realized that Jasmine was doing what she always did. She was looking beyond the surface. Later that night, Vincent attended a meeting with several family members who still struggled to accept Jasmine's role. They questioned whether someone without a traditional background should have such influence over an important event. Vincent listened quietly until everyone finished speaking. Then he asked one question. What exactly makes someone qualified? The room became silent. Nobody answered immediately. Vincent continued. Is it a title? A family name? A reputation built by others? He paused. Or is it the ability to understand the people you are responsible for? His words surprised everyone, including himself. A few months earlier, Vincent would have defended the same ideas they were expressing. But Jasmine had changed the way he viewed success. She had shown him that experience was not always displayed through expensive offices or impressive introductions. Sometimes it was shown through dedication, patience, and the ability to make others feel valued. After the meeting, Jasmine found Vincent outside the estate. You did not have to say anything, she told him. Vincent looked toward the lights of the mansion. I know. Then why did you? He thought about the question. Because I spent too long believing people had to earn the right to be respected. I am starting to understand that respect should begin before judgment. Jasmine smiled softly. She did not need a powerful man to speak for her. She had always been capable of standing on her own. But Vincent was learning that supporting someone's value was not the same as saving them. It was simply recognizing what had been there all along. As the wedding preparations reached their final stage, the people who once ignored Jasmine were beginning to see the truth. The woman they believed did not belong at the table was the person who had made the entire celebration possible. And Vincent knew that soon, everyone would have to face the same realization he had already accepted. The final days before the wedding revealed something that changed the way everyone viewed Jasmine Carter. For weeks, people had focused on what they could see from the outside. They noticed her appearance before her ability. They noticed her position before her experience. But as the celebration approached, the truth became impossible to ignore. Jasmine was not simply organizing an event. She was creating a memory that would stay with people for years. The Harrington estate was filled with activity as the final preparations began. Every room carried a sense of anticipation. Staff members moved carefully through the halls. Vendors arrived with last-minute details, and everyone wanted the wedding to be perfect. Yet behind all the beautiful decorations was a person quietly making everything possible. Jasmine reviewed schedules, checked arrangements, and spoke with every team member involved. She remembered names, listened to concerns, and made sure everyone felt included. Vincent Harrington watched this from a distance. He had always believed leadership meant having the strongest voice in the room. But Jasmine showed him something different. She led without demanding attention. She influenced people without using authority. She created trust without asking for loyalty. One afternoon, Vincent found Jasmine reviewing a seating arrangement. She looked concerned. Something is wrong, he said. Jasmine looked up and smiled slightly. Not wrong, just incomplete. She explained that one of the family members had been placed far away from people they were close to because the arrangement focused only on appearance and tradition. Vincent looked at the plan again. He realized. She was right. Most people would have ignored such a small detail. But Jasmine understood that small details often carried the biggest emotions. How do you always notice things like this? Vincent asked. Jasmine looked at the room around them. Because people usually show you what matters if you take the time to listen. That answer stayed with him. Vincent had spent years studying business, strategy, and negotiation. He knew how to read numbers and situations. But Jasmine knew how to read people. The difference was becoming clearer every day. Later that evening, Vincent attended a private conversation with some longtime associates. They still questioned why he trusted Jasmine with such an important responsibility. They believed someone with a more prestigious background should have been chosen. Vincent listened quietly before responding. You keep asking why she deserves the opportunity, he said. But you never ask what she has already accomplished. The room became silent. Vincent continued. You are judging the person standing in front of you without understanding the work that brought her here. For the first time, the people around him had no easy answer. Because the truth was becoming obvious. Jasmine had never lacked value. She had only lacked recognition from people who were unwilling to look deeper. After the conversation, Vincent found Jasmine outside the venue area, checking the final details under the evening lights. "You know, most people would be angry after everything that happened," he said. Jasmine looked at him. Being angry would not improve the wedding. Vincent smiled slightly. "You really do think differently." Jasmine nodded. "I just believe everyone has a story before they are judged." Those words followed Vincent long after the conversation ended. He realized Jasmine was not changing because powerful people finally noticed her. She had always been the same person. The only thing changing was the way others saw her. And as the wedding day approached, Vincent knew the moment was coming when everyone would finally understand why the woman they pushed away from the table had always belonged there. The wedding day arrived, and the Harrington estate transformed into a place that looked beyond imagination. Every corner reflected months of preparation, but the most important detail was something no decoration could create. It was the feeling that every person there mattered. Jasmine Carter stood quietly among the activity, making final adjustments while guests arrived. She checked every arrangement, welcomed every member of the staff, and made sure the smallest details were handled with care. To everyone watching closely, one thing became clear. This event was successful because of the woman behind it. The same woman who had once been considered unworthy of sitting at the table was now the person everyone depended on. Vincent Harrington observed the scene from across the room. He remembered the first night he saw Jasmine. He remembered the uncomfortable silence when she was pushed away from the gathering. He remembered how easily people had judged her without knowing anything about her. But now, the entire atmosphere was different. People were approaching Jasmine for guidance. They were asking for her opinion. They were trusting her decisions. Not because Vincent had given her authority, but because she had earned their respect through her actions. During the ceremony preparations, one small issue appeared that required a quick decision. Several people immediately looked toward Jasmine. She calmly reviewed the situation, listened to everyone involved, and found a solution that worked for everyone. Vincent noticed something important in that moment. Jasmine did not lead by making people feel smaller. She led by making people feel valued. Later, before the main celebration began, Vincent walked through the venue with Jasmine. The room was filled with carefully arranged details that represented the couple's story. "You created all of this," Vincent said. Jasmine smiled. "A lot of people created this. I just helped bring everything together." Vincent looked at her. That answer was exactly why she was different. She never claimed all the credit. She always recognized the people around her. As guests gathered for the celebration, some of the same people who had questioned Jasmine's place at the table watched her with new eyes. They saw the confidence she carried. They saw the respect she received. They saw the results of her work. The assumptions they had made about her no longer matched reality. Vincent noticed their expressions and understood something. Sometimes the greatest lesson was not proving someone wrong. It was allowing the truth to become impossible to ignore. During the evening, Vincent stepped forward to address the guests. Everyone expected him to speak about the Harrington family, the importance of the event, or the future ahead. Instead, he spoke about something different. "There are people who spend their lives being underestimated," he said. "Not because they lack talent, but because others decide who they are before taking the time to know them." The room became silent. Vincent looked toward Jasmine. The person who created the heart of this celebration was someone many people overlooked. Jasmine stood quietly, surprised by the recognition. She had never worked for praise. She had never needed a room full of people to tell her that she mattered. But hearing those words from someone like Vincent showed that change was possible. After the celebration ended, Vincent found Jasmine outside, near the garden. "You realize everyone sees you differently now," he said. Jasmine smiled. "I hope they see everyone differently now." Vincent understood what she meant. This was never only about Jasmine. It was about every person who had been judged before being understood. And as the lights of the Harrington estate reflected across the quiet garden, Vincent knew the woman everyone had underestimated had changed far more than a wedding. She had changed the way people saw value itself. The days after the wedding brought a change that everyone at the Harrington estate could feel. The event was over, the guests had returned home, and the beautiful decorations had been carefully removed. But the impact of what happened remained. For the first time, many people inside Vincent Harrington's world began questioning the way they judged others. They had spent years believing importance came from wealth, reputation, and influence. Jasmine Carter had shown them something different. She had shown them that value could exist quietly, without demanding attention. Vincent noticed the change more than anyone. The man who once believed leadership meant control had started understanding that leadership was built on trust. He began spending more time listening to the people around him. He asked employees for their thoughts before making decisions. He paid attention to the work that happened behind the scenes. These were simple changes, but for someone like Vincent, they represented something much deeper. Jasmine had not changed because she wanted to transform him. She had simply lived according to her own principles, and that example had challenged everything he believed. One afternoon, Vincent invited Jasmine to visit one of the Harrington family foundations. He wanted her opinion on how the organization could better connect with the community it served. When they arrived, Jasmine noticed something immediately. The foundation had impressive resources, but the stories of the people it helped were missing from the process. "You have created something powerful," Jasmine said. "But sometimes the people you want to help need to feel heard before they feel supported." Vincent looked at her thoughtfully. It was another simple observation that others had missed. He realized Jasmine had a rare ability to see what existed beneath the surface. She did not only look at systems. She looked at people. Later that day, Vincent attended a meeting with several executives. They discussed expansion plans and future projects. In the past, Vincent would have focused only on results. But this time, he asked a different question. How will this affect the people involved? The room became quiet. Some of the executives were surprised. They had never heard him approach decisions that way before. Vincent knew the change came from Jasmine's influence, but he also knew something important. She had not given him a new personality. She had reminded him of something he had forgotten. Power without understanding was incomplete. That evening, Vincent found Jasmine reviewing notes for another event. "You know, you changed the way I think," he said. Jasmine looked up and smiled. "I did not change you." Vincent nodded. "Maybe not, but you showed me something I was not willing to see before." Jasmine closed the folder in her hands. Sometimes people do not need someone to fix them. They just need someone to remind them what matters. Vincent thought about those words long after their conversation ended. He had spent years believing that being respected meant being feared or admired. Now he understood that the deepest respect came from how people felt when they were around you. As time passed, more people in Vincent's world began recognizing Jasmine's influence. Not because she had a powerful title, not because she demanded attention, but because she consistently showed the same kindness, intelligence, and confidence that had been there from the beginning. The woman they once believed did not belong at the table had become the person who helped others understand why every voice deserved a place. And Vincent knew the final lesson was not about giving Jasmine a seat. It was about realizing she had always deserved one. Years later, people would still remember the wedding that changed the way the Harrington family saw the world. They would remember the beautiful celebration, the carefully designed details, and the unforgettable moments shared that day. But more than anything, they would remember the woman who showed everyone that value was never determined by appearance, status, or the opinions of others. Jasmine Carter continued building her career with the same dedication she had always shown. She never forgot where she came from, and she never allowed recognition to change who she was. The same woman who once stood quietly at the edge of a room was now respected by people who had once failed to see her worth. But Jasmine never focused on proving anyone wrong. She focused on creating meaningful experiences and treating people with the same kindness she had always given. Vincent Harrington also changed in ways that surprised everyone around him. The white mafia boss who had once measured success through influence and control became a leader who understood the importance of trust. He still carried the same authority and responsibility, but his perspective was different. He no longer believed that power meant standing above others. He understood that true leadership meant recognizing the value of the people beside you. One evening, Vincent and Jasmine returned to the same dining room where everything had started. The table was still there, the same place where people once decided who belonged and who did not. Vincent looked around the room quietly. "It is interesting," he said. "This table never changed." Jasmine looked at him. "What do you mean?" Vincent smiled slightly. "The table was never the problem. The way people looked at it was." Jasmine understood what he meant. A seat had never defined her worth. Being invited had never made her valuable. She had always carried that value with her. The only thing that changed was that others finally learned to recognize it. Later that night, Vincent attended a gathering with many of the same people who had once questioned Jasmine's place among them. This time, the atmosphere was completely different. They greeted her with genuine respect. They asked for her opinions. They listened when she spoke. Not because Vincent had ordered them to. Not because they feared his influence. But because they had finally seen the truth for themselves. Vincent watched Jasmine interact with everyone and realized something important. The greatest change was not that he had given her a chance. It was that he had stopped believing he was the person who created her opportunity. Jasmine had created her own path long before he noticed it. She had earned every achievement through patience, talent, and determination. He had simply been fortunate enough to witness it. As the evening ended, Vincent stood beside Jasmine outside the Harrington estate. The city lights reflected across the quiet street, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "You know," Vincent said, "for a long time, I thought respect came from making people notice you." Jasmine smiled. "And now?" Vincent looked back at the mansion. "Now I know respect comes from noticing others." That was the lesson he carried with him forever. The woman they once pushed away from the table had become the person who taught an entire room what belonging truly meant. And that day, everyone remembered that dignity does not need permission to exist. It only needs someone willing to see it.